I've been pretty excited about this for a long while. Throughout my life, there's been two main science fiction series that I've been involved in. Star Wars and Doctor Who. I quite like Trek, and I don't hold to the idea that you're either into Star Wars or Trek. They're both science fiction, they're both good. You can like both. I don't understand this sort of animosity that some sort of have towards one or the other. But I've loved Doctor Who since I was a kid. We used to get it on ABC TV as a kid, and it was good even then, and I quite like what they've done with the new series. Especially as they've started to bring more of the old characters and old situations back, making it all one sort of continuum. I think one of the big things I liked about Doctor Who was its positivity. A lot of the things I hear about why people like Star Trek is that it's a positive, hopeful message of the future. And that's really what Doctor Who's been as well. There's a lot of times when humans in the series do some really bad things and make really bad choices. And he acknowledges them as bad choices, but he says that, yeah, we do things. We can be cruel, we can be mean, we can be downright horrific sometimes, but there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of potential in the race. And I think that in today's society of selfishness and all the stuff that's been going on that's really not good, I think things like Star Trek and Doctor Who and that are a good thing to have, and it's a good influence, especially on youth. So this is the 12th Doctor and his companions, and it's going to be 5 miniatures, and it's basically the main characters. The 12th Doctor hasn't had a wide variety of companions, really, and so they've actually had to sort of pad his with some of the other characters, which luckily is quite interesting and decent enough, because it's Madame Vazra, Jenny, and Strax who they've added, and that's kind of cool. So these are pewter. They're made in Great Britain, which I think is good. Manufactured so much in China, and it's not an anti-China thing, but so much has been manufactured in China. I think it's good to see some homegrown stuff. I have no idea what's in the box. I know the miniatures are, but this is for a game, Into the Time Vortex. I have no idea if there's anything else in the box, what you get, how it works, anything. So there's another interior piece. There we go. Ooh. Okay, so get that over there. They've also tried to explain, which they did in the series, why he looked like a character who had appeared in Doctor Who already. I'm the Doctor and I save people, and if anyone happens to be listening and you've got any kind of a problem with that, to hell with you. Very much. Okay, so it comes with a little write-up on each of the characters with one of their quotes. Madame Vastra's is the only quote that's somewhat disappointing. "Good evening, I'm a lizard woman from the dawn of time, and this is my wife." Now, it's not that she has a wife, that doesn't bother me at all. I've seen some people going sort of crazy over that stuff in the series. I think it's fine. It's kind of cool, and they've added some humour to it sometimes, which I think is good for those that are uptight about the whole thing. But I think she's had better lines than that, is all I'm saying. "You're not my boss, you're one of my hobbies," was Clara's. That's not too bad. "Well, we can't be in much danger from a disembodied intelligence that thinks it can invade the world with snowmen," is Jenny's. That's kind of cool. And Strax, so many to choose from, but I suggest a full frontal assault with automated laser monkeys, scalpel mines, and acid. He's just awesome. So it comes in this little plastic container with the symbol on the front. There's no tape holding it. And it just opens up. So what have we got? Okay, so there's a couple of little problems. Hopefully these can be easily rectified. We'll have to see. Sculpt wise, these look excellent. I don't know what people are complaining about. Clara. Its facial sculpt is very, very good. There's a slight issue on mine, but that won't be a problem. And there's a couple of little burrs on the base that can be cut down. Copyright for this is BBC 2009. She's all one piece. All these are all one piece, which is kind of interesting. I expected some of them to be a little bit more than that. She has some nice detail on her shoes. They should come up nice. Some folds in her clothing. There's a single seam line that's running down one side. Shouldn't be too hard to remove. It's not very prominent on mine. And a couple of little burrs around the boots and that, which can just be trimmed off. The only part that you're going to have to be careful of is the seam line in her hair, which is where it's not really prominent, it's not really big, but you just want to be careful not to remove too much detail getting rid of it. The problem with Jenny, she has a bent sword. Getting that straight shouldn't be impossible. The hardest part when you straighten a sword on a metal miniature, you can obviously there's going to be a weak point joining at the bend, so you've got to be careful of the bend. But it's more a case of when you straighten them, it's not always straight. You can usually get a bit of a wave in it, which isn't what you want. So I try not to use my hand, like my fingers, because sometimes that creates the bend even more. So that doesn't look too bad. I've just straightened it. The hardest part in a way is getting it straight with the hilt, because again she's a one piece miniature. She's in her leathers with her either the skirt, which she's folded up or tucked up or something like that. I'd have to look at the original picture to get a really good idea. I know the costume, I just can't quite picture it looking at the bare metal. A couple of burrs again, one on the base and one at the end of her dress. The sword's not too bad now. A little bit of a burr at the end of that. Facial features doesn't look quite as good as Clara. Clara looks, you can sort of see Clara when you look at it. I mean, yeah, actually you really can. Clara's an excellent job. She's not unattractive, she's quite good. There is a seam line again, you just got to watch for it. It's not huge, but it does go through her hair and down one side. Those seam lines in the hair is going to be a little bit of a hassle. Madame Vazra is my favourite miniature in this particular set. She's got the most detail, especially on her boots. Her boots are amazing. These little laces at the front. Her high heels, both of them are there. They're not missing. Obviously, that's a concern with it being high heels. She could be missing that high heel. Like when it's molded, you could lose that because it's a really, really thin and small piece. It's really possible to have lost that, but they're both there. And so's the points on all her Silurian head. She has quite nice lines for being an alien, and the miniature certainly exemplifies that, but Madame Vastra has quite a nice shape considering she is a lizard alien. Strax is in his butler outfit. He has a more prominent seam line on that one side that you have to be a bit careful of. There's also a couple of bits of the sort of extra metal, which is, I don't think it's flash, I think it's actually where the metal might get poured in from. So it's not exactly a stud that has to be removed. It's quite thin, and it should be reasonably easy just to pull it off. And there's a couple on him. Just have to watch. He doesn't have hair, so the seam line on his head is actually much easier to deal with. Both his ears are nicely done. So yeah, just the seam line to remove. Nothing too heavy on him. He looks quite good. And lastly is the 12th Doctor himself. And gotta be honest, a little bit disappointed with the 12th Doctor. Now, it's nothing to do with the miniature itself. The miniature is actually extremely good. His coat's flared open, which gives you there's nice folds on the back. The guitar is actually really well done. Comes with an extra piece of metal which goes from the fret to the ground. You've got to trim that off. That gives the guitar some strength when it's not being used. There's a seam line that has to be trimmed off. That's okay. It's just, while the guitar has been a bit of a theme for him, and in the show it's fine, it's quite funny to see the guitar used. I also, like, that was the big joke right from the start in season 9, I think it was, when he turns up, the Magician's Apprentice, when he turns up on the tank with his guitar and he's like, you wanted an axe fight. So it's cool that they've done that. I understand why. It is interesting, but in a way, something a little bit more doctory, if that sort of makes sense. The problem I think that they're having at the moment, and it's the one area I will concede some of the complaints I've seen online, the poses aren't very dynamic. The 10th Doctor's set is certainly falls into that. There's not much movement in these figures. Clara is exceptionally sculpted. It's a great miniature, but she's sort of hands at the side and just walking. Strax, okay, I'm picking holes. It is nitpicky, but he's basically just standing, legs akimbo, holding the newspaper. Jenny and Madame Vassara are probably the most animated of the 5 figures. Jenny has her wakizashi out, and Madame Vassara is ready to draw hers. But there's still not a lot of action in the poses and in the figures. And the 10th Doctor, his set is, I think, even worse for that. But as for the quality of the miniatures, I think they're excellent. I think that they're very good. I mean, if you look at bold action, which Warlord does, there's a lot of movement. Now, okay, they're soldiers and stuff, so yeah, you'd expect that. But they do a lot of movement and a lot of good action, and they've got that down really well now. So I think that you're going to see some stuff as they get more comfortable with doing different sets, different releases. Overall, for the money, which wasn't a real lot, I think it was £22, so it was under $30 for the 5 figures. Excellent. Yeah, I'm happy with it. If you're a Doctor Who fan, that's the thing. There's two issues here. From a gaming point of view, you could want stuff a bit more action orientated, if you know what I mean. I mean, you're going to put Clara onto a game table with a Dalek, and the Dalek, she's just sort of like, hey man, it's cool. I'm relaxed. Look, I'm stylish. I'm pretty, and I know it. Haha. And that sort of goes against the grain of having a table full of Daleks and that. But if you're just painting them as a fan separately, and you want a Clara Oswald figure, excellent. You want to paint a 12th Doctor figure, he's excellent. This is an aesthetic choice, my not liking the guitar, but that's aesthetics only. The actual figure is excellent with good detail. There's nothing wrong with it. So am I happy with it? Yeah. This has been cool. Overall, I'm really happy with this. I'll be getting the 10th, and they also have at the moment a couple of Silence figures. Jadoon, which was an interesting choice. I quite like the Jadoon with their helmets on. They're a little bit funny with the helmets off, the rhinos, but I think they're cool looking. Zygons, with plastic Cybermen and that coming, but they've also announced a Cyberman set of pewter figures from different eras. That's going to be awesome. I love the Cybermen, both early and Earthshock, Invasion, all that sort of era. The new ones, not quite as much, but they're cool. They're cool still. Daleks are going to do the same thing, and we're going to get a lot more of the Doctors. The license covers all Doctor Who from the beginning to the new series, so we're going to get all sorts of figures and stuff. Now, one thing I am surprised at, there is absolutely no game-related content in this pack at all. That's surprising. I did not expect that to be the case. I expected there to be cards for the new characters. I expected there to be things that they would have, much like when you buy Imperial Assault. You get the figure from Imperial Assault, but then you also get new missions and new abilities and all this sort of stuff, and there's none of that in here, which means maybe these will be obviously integrated into the game, because that's what these are for, but there's nothing new that comes in this pack that will add to the game in that way. So that was surprising. I expected there to be something, and I was going to take a bit of a look at that, so that's not going to happen because there's nothing in it. So there you go, my review. If you're a fan of Doctor Who, you should be happy with them. think it should be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to checking it out. Possibly get it for Christmas. It just depends how much it is. I've only seen the small pack so far, not the full game that's coming out. And yeah, this is good stuff. I'm happy with where it started and certainly be picking more up. Thanks for watching.